Welcome to Season 3, Episode 8 of the Sports Corner Podcast. My name is Nick. I'm joined, as always, by my good buddy Steven. And tonight we're breaking down Week 3 of the NCAA college football season, as well as Week 2 of the NFL, other sporting news as we go along the night. We're going to see if it's time to hit the panic button on Clemson and so much more. Thank you guys for being a part of the podcast tonight. As always, we stream live on Twitch, twitch.tv/PastorNick86. The show starts at 9 o'clock Eastern each week, each Monday night. Also uploaded to your favorite podcast app as well as YouTube no later than Tuesday morning. And so you can find us there as well. However you find us, thank you for listening. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your time and a little bit of your attention. Steven, how are you, buddy?
I am doing swell tonight.
Okay, now, swell, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're cutting out on me, man.
Might be
having mic issues.
Yeah, I had the audacity of touching my mic, and apparently that was enough to cause it to short out there for about 20 seconds. Cool, Mike, thanks. Swell.
Yeah, there we go.
Swell, as if I'm not mistaken, is an abbreviation of so well. Is that right?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, cool.
Doing so well tonight. I'm doing well. Doing good. Doing
Great.
fine.
Wonderful.
Magnificent. All of these adjectives above. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing good. It's a great day. It's been a good
You're
Monday.
sleepy boy tonight.
You know, a little tired, ready for a little bit of sleep. But you know, that's okay. That's okay. I'm excited to do this show because here is the rundown. We're going to give you some helmet stickers. We're going to list out some winners and losers. We're going to put our eye on Tennessee. We're going to pick 5 games for this upcoming college football week. We're going to talk about the pay disparity between male and female athletes, specifically regarding soccer.
Briefly.
And then we're going to land on our Mount Rushmore, where we're going to rank our MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, content. That could be TV shows, movies, whatever.
Characters.
Part of the MCU. I mean, I wasn't really thinking characters. Characters, you know, kind of go across the entire thing, so...
Not bobbleheads.
No. Yeah.
Content.
It's content. It is content. You're not wrong. All right, so let's get things started, my friend, with our helmet stickers for this week. Go ahead and give me your first helmet sticker.
My first helmet sticker, as always, it can go on a helmet or a headset or a surfboard or whatever we so choose that week. A cat, I believe, last week was.
I put a helmet sticker on a cat.
Maybe the cat should have been wearing a helmet.
The cat would have been
safer.
Would have been safer with the helmet on. There's no doubt about it.
My first helmet sticker is going on a helmet, and a helmet that actually puts on helmet stickers for the record.
Okay.
Travion Henderson, running back for Ohio State. So Travion Henderson is a freshman at Ohio State this year. He is one of their more highly touted running back recruits in a while, which is saying something because it's Ohio State. He broke the 49-year-old freshman rushing record in Saturday's 41-20 win over Tulsa that was previously held by none other than Archie Griffin. Not too shabby. Henderson had 24 carries for 277 yards. I don't know the exact yard per carry there, but that's a lot. And he added 3 touchdowns to boot. So that gives him the 3rd best game by any running back in Ohio State history. Former Sooner Trey Sermon ran for 331 yards on 29 carries in last year's Big Ten championship game against Northwestern. And all the way back in 1995, Eddie George ran for 314 yards on 36 carries. He also had 3 touchdowns in that game.
Very interesting.
Digging deep tonight.
Digging deep. Hey, I mean, what has been the one thing that we have said about Ohio State for this entire year, and that is they have some amazing skill players. Now, that's led by their phenomenal receivers, but I've spoken highly of that young man already this year, and he's proving that he is going to be a force to be reckoned with both now and in the future. I'm going to the NFL with my first helmet sticker, going to actually put it on a helmet. It's going to none other than quarterback Tom Brady.
Who's that?
Yes. Now listen, I know that Tom Brady is apparently a polarizing figure.
Is he a robot at this point?
He could be. I don't know that he's human. No, for some reason he's a polarizing figure nationwide, but he seems to be especially polarizing here in East Tennessee. I think that's because you guys have this inferiority complex with him and Peyton Manning. For some reason, you guys can't be like, man, they were two of the best quarterbacks we'll ever see play the game. No, instead we have to be like, no, Peyton's good and Tom Brady's terrible. And here's what here is what I've heard over the years.
I'm going to let you finish. Mm-hmm. But I'm just kidding.
Here's what I hear.
Kanye.
Yeah. I'll hear something like, well, he was only good because of the system in which Bill Belichick put him in. I'm not saying the head coach didn't put you in a system to win. Hey, that's kind of their job as a head coach. Put your players in the best situation. Well, he's only good because of the receiver. Peyton Manning never had the receivers. He never had the line. He never had the coach. Hey, that all might be true. That doesn't change the fact that Peyton Manning had a great, successful career, but so did this guy by the name of Tom Brady. So I don't know why he's so controversial. I don't know why so many people, especially in East Tennessee, hate him. But hey, get over it. The dude is a GOAT, perhaps the GOAT of all time, and he just continues to prove it over and over. So yesterday, at the young age of 44, he led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a 45-28 win over the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons. In that game, Tom Brady was 24 for 36. He had 276 yards, 5 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Now, that performance in and of itself is 100% worthy of a helmet sticker, but let me just go on a little bit more for you. Over the last 4 games, which includes the playoffs, he has scored 17 touchdowns. That's averaging over 4 a game, for those of you that are a little bit difficult with the math department. He has 9 straight games that he has won with 3+ touchdowns in each game. That's also including playoffs. He has 9 passing touchdowns during the first 2 games of this NFL season. He has 4 straight games, again, we're counting playoffs here, which are supposed to be games against tougher competition where everything's on the line and no one's holding back, where he has scored, 4 touchdowns per game, which is tied for the second longest streak. That's tied with Dan Marino. And he is the first player in NFL history to lead in touchdowns through the first 2 weeks of the season after turning the age of 40. So he's leading the NFL in touchdowns. He's over the age of 40. The dude's just doing it. I saw another stat the other day that I couldn't re-find, but it compared like Tom Brady's first 100 games and his stats to his second 100 games. And the numbers are somehow better and almost identical is the crazy thing in this second 100 half. I know at some point Tom Brady is going to age is going to catch up with this robot man and he'll fall apart and he'll have to retire, and I get that, but there's no doubt that this dude is worthy of GOAT status and certainly worthy of a helmet sticker for what he's done this past week as well as over the most recent history as he's been at Tampa Bay.
2 things here. One, okay. I think the GOAT debate is stupid. Let's just admire the fact that both of these guys, Aaron Rodgers, all of those guys, Dan Marino, whoever you want to include, are amazing, super talented, and you can find your own stats to back whoever you want and make an argument for anybody, just about. It's insane what Brady has been able to do. The arguments against him are obviously Belichick being arguably the greatest coach of all time. That definitely works in Brady's favor. If you look at the defenses that he had when he was in New England, that works in his favor as well.
See, what I tell you, chat, audience, listeners, what did I say 2 minutes ago? That we're going to get apologists, and we're going to get excuses, and we're going to get this. And if Peyton Manning had these defenses, he'd do the same thing.
So the year Peyton was injured, the Colts won 2 games without him. The year that Tom Brady was injured, the Patriots won 11-5. So,
okay, Patriots are a better team overall. That's not Tom Brady's fault.
I'm not.
Is the team not better with Tom Brady? Hey,
one's still playing, one's not. So
did Bill Belichick and the Patriots win the Super Bowl last year?
No. They were horrible, but most of their team also opted out. So they're much better this year. They're the rookie.
They're doing fine. And no one is saying Bill Belichick isn't a great coach. No one is saying these things do not benefit the quarterback.
I'm not saying Tom Brady's not the GOAT.
I'm just saying.
You can make
2 minutes ago, I said that we would hear arguments of why he's not, and
you can make your. I stopped listening.
You
can't talk about Tom Brady for that long. So.
You literally heard me say it, and then you had to go and do it. Give me your next helmet sticker.
I'm going to stay in the NFL with the current new age GOAT. Not really. He's not that good, but he is better than he used to be. Sam Darnold. He is the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. Mm-hmm. He is off to a very good start in his new home. So last week, Darnold made his Panthers debut against his old team, the New York Jets, and made them pay for letting him go. He finished 24 of 35 for 279 yards and a touchdown and added another score with his legs. And that was just kind of the teaser for this week. So he put up a final line this week, 26 of 38, 305 yards and 2 touchdowns. In his 3 seasons in New York, any guesses on how many times Darnold crossed the 275-yard mark?
4 times.
6 times.
Okay.
The last coming all the way back in November of 2019. That's an average of 2 times a season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you heard my stats there, but through 2 weeks with Carolina, he has crossed 275 passing yards both weeks.
Yeah.
So it's amazing what you can do whenever you give a guy a capable coaching staff, some offensive weapons to get the ball to. Everybody wanted to hate on Darnold up in New York, and I've said for a while that Adam Gase is the issue, not Sam Darnold, and it's looking to be true.
Well, I think that there is a certain truth that a head coach can help make a team better, and it's certainly true that a head coach can make the team worse, even if there's good talent there. And I think that's what you've seen in New York. Quarterback who did not look great in his new home yesterday. Old boy Jameis Winston down at New Orleans. Whew.
He needs to get LASIK again.
He had a couple of ugly interceptions. He had a couple, one time I think was trying to throw the ball away, and he, switched the ball to his left hand to throw it away and, hit a dude in the back of the helmet with him. It was not a pretty game.
He's trying.
He's doing something.
He's trying, okay?
Hey, he's doing something.
Leave the man alone.
All right, my next helmet sticker, also sticking on a helmet this week, but back in the college game, I'm giving it to Jackson Dart. Everyone knows who Jackson Dart is. Everyone came into this season
not a real person,
fully expecting him to be the person that we all are talking about. No, Jackson Dart is the backup quarterback for the University of Southern California, the good old USC Trojans. And I know what you're thinking, Nick. Hold on. Keaton Slovis, USC's starting quarterback, is the one that you should be talking about. He's been the guy forever. And in a sense, he has. He is a third-year starter, and he's had fairly moderate success in the position at USC, despite the fact that USC has not had the success that they want as a program. What I find funny is that it was not funny, but maybe ironic, maybe fate or whatever. It was an injury to JT Daniels a couple of years ago that allowed for Slovis to get the start and to eventually make his way as a star at USC. Of course, Daniels, as you know, eventually transferred to Georgia. And my question here is, are we going to see the same thing unfold now? Slovis went out during the first drive of the game. He had some kind of injury to his neck, upper spine area. It was kind of really scary looking thing. And so he goes out and he never returns that game. And so Dart comes into the game, and by the time we get midway through the second quarter, Washington State is holding a 14-0 lead over the Trojans, and it looks like things are going to be going in a very negative way because, in case you have forgotten, USC fired their coach last week after an embarrassing loss, and so now we have a interim head coach who's having to play the backup quarterback, and are the players going to want to play for this guy? What's going to happen? Well, Dart comes into the game, like I mentioned, midway through the second quarter, they're down 14-0. And then I guess Dart kind of settles into the role. I did not watch this game in full. I watched a lot of the highlights today during my lunch break, and you just almost see him kind of settle down and let the game come to him as opposed to trying to kind of force things. And, he starts to make plays happen, including converting a 4th and 9 play into a 38-yard touchdown. In the third quarter, he led 3 scoring drives, 2 of them through the air, another one that ended with a rushing touchdown. And then in the fourth quarter, he added another score through the air. So all in all, he ends the night with 391 yards and 4 touchdowns. Not too bad for the backup. I think there are a lot of universities out there that would love to put in a quarterback who could put up those kind of numbers. Tennessee, Oklahoma, the list goes on.
Insert every school in the country?
Insert most schools in the country, sure. So I'm very thankful to be able to report that the x-rays and MRI of Slovis's neck did not show anything alarming, and he's actually expected to practice this week. Nothing I saw said necessarily like full practice, but nothing said restricted practice either. It just said he'll be able to practice this week. But what's interesting is interim coach Dante Williams said that the two would be battling for the starting job. So apparently, if both are healthy, if both are ready to go, it's going to potentially be a coin toss of who's going to be the starting quarterback this week. And I just find that interesting. Maybe we're going to see Slovis transfer out and go be the starting quarterback somewhere else. Oklahoma? Tennessee?
Well, if there's something we know, it's that you want your interim head coach to be dealing with a quarterback battle going into his second game.
Right. So and the fourth week of the season.
I'm sure nothing negative will come from this decision that happens over the next few weeks.
Well, it's the Pac-12, so
it'll be interesting to monitor for sure. Jackson Dart absolutely sounds like one of those made-up names, like when you load into Madden for the first time.
Well, yeah, or like you
create a player.
You're doing like NCAA, and you're still playing NCAA 13. You're now in like the 18th year, and it's just like generating player names.
Yeah, that's absolutely made up.
It's even how he spells it though, because he spells it Jaxon, so it's just like
it's absolutely
super millennial and trendy.
Well, that's enough for individual players. Give me a winner this week.
All right, so my first winner is going to be Michigan State.
Nice.
Michigan State was picked near the bottom of the Big Ten's East Division by most preseason rankings. Went back and looked through my notes. Neither one of us had them very high. I think I had them a little bit higher than like the bottom tier. I said that they could make a splash and probably would be the better Mississippi team. Or not Mississippi, I'm sorry, Michigan team. Although that's perhaps up. Did you? I believe that for sure. But despite being 2-0 going into Saturday's game against 1-1 Miami, they were underdogs and they were unranked, whereas Miami was somehow still in the top 25. Miami did go up early in this game, but Michigan State wasn't having it, and they hammered King and the Canes into the ground. The final score was 38-17. The Spartan defense was able to pick off King twice, and other than him having a really good connection with Charleston Rambo, they
had to get that in there.
No, I'm not even going to go into Rambo. I wasn't even going to bring in the fact, but now I am. That Charleston Rambo, of course, a nice transfer from the University of Oklahoma. No, he's had something like 12 or 14 catches for like 150 some odd yards. He was like really the one bright spot on that offense. Because other than Rambo, the second leading receiver in receptions was the running back who had 7 catches. And sometimes that's fine because, you get him. You want to get your ball to the playmaker in open space.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey.
Right. Alvin Kamara. Things like that. Like, you want to do that. I understand that. But here's the problem. The running back had 7 catches, but he only had 22 yards. So what we weren't seeing was him getting the ball in open space and making plays and eating up some yards. What we were seeing was King having to go down to the check down receiver, having to just swing it out or find the guy open underneath, and just wasn't really getting any yards in there. And Dewey in chat here is bringing up a great point. Miami is trash. And I don't understand how they came into this game a favorite. I don't understand how they were ranked and Michigan State wasn't. But Michigan State came in there and they just pushed them around and they did what they wanted to do. Michigan State's quarterback, Peyton Thorne, threw for 261 yards and 4 touchdowns, did not turn the ball over. Their leading rusher had over 170 yards. And the Spartans not only showed that they deserve to be ranked over Miami, but they need some and deserve some and have earned some respect in a Big Ten conference that's kind of struggling a little bit right now. It's not looking like they're the best conference out there. And so I think a big winner from this week is Michigan State. I think despite the fact that Michigan is actually playing somewhat well right now, I think Michigan State is the better team in the state of Michigan right now.
I refuse to give Harbaugh any credit, so I agree with you. I hate Jim Harbaugh. He's terrible. I don't understand why Miami and Notre Dame consistently get this benefit of the doubt, or it's not even doubt. It's just overhyped for no reason. They consistently just underachieve. Every year we want to make Miami a thing. Every year. It's just the year they finally put it together. Derek King was hurt last year. That was the only reason. They're just not a good football team, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Also, Peyton Thorne, Jackson Dart, made up
There's
names.
some great names, man.
They're not real people. My first winner, I was harsh on them last week. I will give them some love this week. The
Okay.
Texas running backs. So
Okay.
1 week after getting torched in the run game by Arkansas,
Mm-hmm.
Texas flipped the script and ran all over Rice. The Texas running backs combined for 418 yards on 38 carries, an average of 10.7 yards per carry, and 6 touchdowns. 4 different running backs found the end zone for the Longhorns, including a hat trick from their All-American contender Bijan Robinson. And so here were their numbers on the day. Bijan Robinson had 13 carries for 127 yards and 3 touchdowns. Roshan Johnson added 3 carries for 112 yards and 1 touchdown, the 37.3-yard average. Keelan Robinson, 5 for 83 and a touchdown, 16.6-yard average, and he also blocked a punt for a safety.
Okay.
Jonathan Brooks, a true freshman, had 9 carries for 63 yards and another touchdown. So I know this game came against Rice, but anytime you cross 400 yards rushing, it's an impressive day. Doesn't matter who you're playing.
Well, and I think Texas had to go out there and, barring some kind of disaster, they were going to win that game. So what they
Yeah.
needed to do is they needed to figure some things out,
Mhm.
work out some kinks, and it sounds like that's exactly what they did. And that's what you want to see from that team moving into the next part of the season.
Mhm. And so that's the same Rice team that nearly upset Arkansas in week 1.
Yeah.
Arkansas just hammered Texas last week, which, you can never just play they beat them, who beat them game. But it's just weird how Rice nearly beats Arkansas. Arkansas crushes Texas, and then Texas turns around and obliterates Rice. It's just weird. So obviously, it's not something that Texas can keep up. You're not going to run for 400 yards every game, but it is certainly nice to get an identity for your offense heading into conference play.
Yeah, for sure. They got to feel good about what they're able to do, able to impose their will on a team that they were supposed to. And let's face it, what's one thing that we've talked about all season already? There have been a lot of teams who have played inferior opponents and have struggled. Might have come away with wins. They might have even pulled away late. We saw that this week with Ohio State playing Tulsa. The end score in that game looks like they kind of almost doubled them. But if you're watching that, we were midway through the fourth quarter, or early in the fourth quarter, something like that, and the game was like a one-score game. So, Texas did what they needed to do at that point. All right, my next winner is going to be the Tennessee Titans. Looking back to the NFL really quick, they had a disappointing week 1. It looked like they were in for a rough week 2. The Seahawks were up 24-9 at the half. I did a little research on this, and the article that I read said the Seahawks were 52-0 when leading by 15 at the half and playing on their home field. Now, that kind of goes back to what you say. If you find enough things to give you a thing, that you'll find a way to make a stat out of everything. But come on, up 24-9. They're 52-0 in that situation. They're going to win this game. But obviously they don't, because Tennessee is my winner here, not the Seahawks. So they're 52-1 when leading by 15 or more at half at home now. Tennessee turned things around by finally deciding it was time to feed Derrick Henry. And the man
Who'd have
who
thought that
was...
wasn't a good idea?
I know, right? The man who was drafted high in every fantasy league finally came in clutch, not only for the Titans, but for his fantasy owners as well. He scored 3 touchdowns, he rushed for 180 yards, and he helped to prevent what certainly would have been a total meltdown in Nashville this week. Tennessee Titans definitely a winner, because they almost started the season out 0-2 in what would have been a disastrous start to the NFL season.
Yeah, not sure there was a team that had 6 worse quarters and then 2 better quarters in the NFL. That was really strange. Give Tennessee credit for fighting back in that game, but there's also something weird about Pete Carroll with a lead. I don't understand. He makes stupid decisions,
Yeah, he
right?
does
Like,
not make the right call.
I mean, I just don't understand it. But I think I heard that through the first half of the game on Sunday, Derrick Henry was like the RB 33 in fantasy leagues, and after
Crazy.
the game, he was RB 1. That tells you
Wow.
this. That tells you the
Yeah,
second
well,
half he had.
hey, anytime you can end the day by putting up 180 plus yards and 3 touchdowns, you're going to make a lot of people happy, starting with probably your owner and your coach, and most
Yeah,
certainly everyone who drafted you in the fantasy league.
absolutely. So kudos to them. That I think most Titans fans would have happily taken 1-1 to start the season, opening with the Cardinals and the Seahawks. How they got there makes it feel a little less, you know, exciting, or a little less. You don't feel as good about it, but at the same time, Again, 1-1 with those two teams to start is not too shabby. They get the struggling Colts this week, so it'll be interesting. My second winner staying in the college ranks for me is the San Diego State Aztecs.
Okay.
So they have proved to 2-0 against teams from the Power 5 after their 33-31 triple overtime win over Utah in a game in which they blew a 14-point lead with less than 4 minutes to go, or a little over 4 minutes to go. After both teams missed their field goals in double overtime, we got a glimpse of the new overtime rules. I don't know if do you know about the
I don't think I
rules?
do. What are these new overtime rules?
So starting the third overtime, used to starting the third overtime, you
Had to go for two.
now you only go for two. You do two. You do 2-point conversion shootout.
You just get like one try though.
I believe so. It's very odd.
Wow, I like it.
So the Aztecs turned to the old Philly special. You know what the
Uh-oh.
Philly special is?
Statue of Liberty?
No, it's the old, like, you throw it to the quarterback. It's what they ran to beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Gotcha.
To upset the Utes and further prove that they belong in the Pac-12 title game this year. They beat Arizona last week 38-14 on the road, so they won't get a chance to win that game.
No, I'd imagine you have to be in the conference to do that,
but they absolutely should get to play in that game because they deserve it more than anybody I've seen outside of Oregon.
Yeah.
They did manage to win this game with only 44 passing yards.
Wow.
So here's a fun stat for you. Their win on Saturday moves them to 7-2 against the Power 5 since 2016, including 5-2 against the Pac-12 teams. So they might be the best team in the Pac-12, and they don't even play in the Pac-12.
that is both true and disturbing. Wow.
So good old San Diego State. So give them some love. Let's transition to the sad side. The losers. There were several. I have two. You have one.
Yeah, I do. So let me start off. Let me give you my first one. My first loser is going to be Florida State. For the first time since 1976, the Seminoles have started 0-3. That's a long time to not be 0-3. That 76 season was, by the way, the first year that legendary coach Bobby Bowden was calling the plays. So I know it's only Mike Norvell's second season as head coach of Florida, but I wouldn't really expect him to turn things around in the same way that Bowden did, nor would I expect him to end his career in such a legendary status that Bobby Bowden did. Last year, Norvell went 3-6. This year, as I've already mentioned, he was gone 0-3. And you know what? Got no other way to say this. This is not the first time Florida State has shown up in our notes this season. They started the first game of the year against Notre Dame. They took them to overtime. We had the nice feel-good story with the quarterback that was playing that should never play the game again. But that kind of feels like a lifetime ago. And let's not forget that they came out of that game with the big old L as well. So even though they had that feel-good story and we thought maybe Notre Dame was going to be a better team than they're proving to be, they still lost that game. Last week, remember what they did? Anyone? Yeah, they lost to Jacksonville State by 3 points. It was Florida State's first loss to a non-FBS opponent since 1959. These are not, earlier you talked about records being beaten. You listed the one that happened at Ohio State in the pregame or in our pre-show. We chatted about the quarterback at Mississippi State, how he had 7 touchdowns with tied a record down there. But these are records you don't want to be breaking. You don't want to be starting 0-3 for the first time since 1976. You don't want to lose to a non-FBS team for the first time since 1959. But both of those things have happened this year. And this week, it was the Wake Forest Demon Deacons who punched Florida State in the mouth, and in no way did Florida State punch him back. Florida State gave up 484 yards of offense, 27 first downs, and they lost by a score of 35-14. Needless to say, Norvell's seat is getting hot. They have precedent of getting rid of coaches early. I'll be interested to see what they do here, but no doubt about it, Florida State is an absolute dumpster fire right now.
You mentioned that Bobby Bowden started that way. That's a completely different era of football.
Of course,
there is not a chance he's getting out of this season alive. There's just no way. Bowden likely would have survived a year like this. There's no way Mike Norvell gets out of this.
Really quick, here's the rest of their schedule. They play Louisville, Syracuse, UNC,
Loss.
UMass,
Win.
Clemson,
Loss. Well,
North Carolina State,
loss.
Miami,
Win.
Boston College,
Loss.
Florida.
Loss. 2 wins.
Realistically,
2-4.
the UMass is about the only one on there that I feel super confident in. I agree with you. There's a chance that they beat Miami. There's a chance that they're competitive against someone like Boston College, and they might come and sneak one out against like Syracuse or Louisville.
Or Clemson.
Or Clemson. But really, realistically, I look at that, and the only one that I'm like, yeah, that's a win, is the UMass game. And, stranger things have happened.
They did lose to Jacksonville State.
Yeah.
So you mentioned taking Notre Dame to overtime. Does it feel to you like the year that Texas beat Notre Dame in that huge first game of the season non-conference matchup, and that's where you got the Texas is back, folks announcement from the game commentator? So I feel like that was kind of this year, like, man, Florida State, like, yeah, they lost, but they hung with Notre Dame. They're here to play. It's like, yeah, Notre Dame just actually kind of sucks.
Actually, they're just kind of terrible. Yeah.
So
no doubt.
I am going to build on your first loser and just bash the whole ACC for a minute.
Let's do it.
So you mentioned the bad loss Florida State suffered, but the bad fortunes did not end there on Saturday. So 1 week after beating Tennessee and Knoxville, Pitt faced off against a good, not great Western Michigan team at home. Pitt gave up 517 yards of offense and 44 points and a 44-41 loss. You mentioned earlier Miami had a chance to write their season finally as they welcomed Michigan State to their home field. They're at home and got routed 38-17 to fall to 1-2 on the season. But at least they have Virginia Tech to fall back on as their surprise breakout team. They beat UNC week 1. They're here to stay. They go on the road and get beat by West Virginia, who lost to Maryland week 1. Heck, even Clemson had to eke out a 14-8. It's not a baseball score, my friend. It's a football score. 14-8 home win over 1-2 Georgia Tech. Not Georgia Tech. The same Georgia Tech team Clemson beat last season 73-7. Highly touted QB DJ Ongalele went 18 of 25 for 126 yards. On the season, he now has 349 yards passing through 3 games.
Goodness.
That is a mark that Trevor Lawrence surpassed 4 times last season. 4. He threw for more than that 4 times last season. I think it's time to push the panic button for Clemson. They'll still win the conference, maybe. This conference is terrible. But, I will say Clemson's defense has not given up a touchdown. Brett Venables is doing everything he can to get this team wins. And the offense is like, we don't need to play.
It's frustrating. I'm happy for Brent Venables that he's doing well. Why couldn't the dude stop 70 points being scored when he coached at OU? I don't want to talk about it. I think it's time to panic on Clemson here. I think it's time to absolutely worry about what the future of this program is going to look like. Not to say they're not going to right the ship, not to say they can't turn things around, but there's, a lot of people saying they're not going to really miss a step coming into this season, and they've skinned the knee a little bit. There's maybe not blood drawn yet, but...
So they start a junior wide receiver, a sophomore wide receiver, a junior wide receiver, a redshirt junior left tackle, true freshman left guard, a graduate transfer center, a junior right guard, a sophomore right tackle, senior tight end. This is not a young team on offense.
Right.
A sophomore quarterback, but a guy that played last year and looked great.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a team that has, and it's Clemson. They have all the talent in the world. Their defense, which has been great, is younger than the offense. I don't understand how you are scoring 14 points against Georgia Tech, how you don't score a touchdown against a very good Georgia team. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But you don't score a touchdown.
Well, and one thing that a lot of people have said over the last couple of years is that the next best comparison to a head coach that we have of Nick Saban is Dabo Sweeney at Clemson. And maybe that's true, maybe that's not, but it certainly doesn't look that way whenever he's not able to come in and keep things going whenever you do have the loss of a superstar type player. Because that's what Alabama has every year or two, the loss of one or more superstar players, and they just don't miss a beat. And I'm not saying that it's not human and not normal for a team to miss a beat, to miss a step when they lose a player like Trevor Lawrence or lose some of the players that they've lost. But I'm just saying you can't put yourself on the same level as someone like Nick Saban if you are going to lose that step. All right, my next loser is...
Real quick.
Okay.
Last week, Clemson played South Carolina State.
Yeah.
And they trounced them, 49-3.
Sure.
In that game, DJ Ungalele, 14 of 24, 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Against
against
a
nobody.
state school, that's what you put up. This is not an acceptable output from their offense.
Right. It's not good. It's not good. My next loser of the day is early season NFL injuries. There have been a lot through the first 2 weeks, especially just that came in week 2. Here are a couple of them for you. For the Bears, Dalton Henry. First half, tried to come back and play, but ultimately left again just before the half. From something I read, he has injury now in both ankles. I know Justin Fields, the backup. I know, that's what I read, though. He's injured both ankles somehow.
Came back, left ankle sprain, came back, sprains his right ankle.
Yeah, something like that.
Good job, Andy Dalton.
I know that rookie Justin Fields probably should have been playing anyway, but, Andy Dalton, that's one injury down. For the Broncos, Bradley Chubb, linebacker, had an ankle injury. Josie Jewell, linebacker, had a shoulder injury.
Another fake name.
Yeah, no, they're not real people. Carson Wentz for the Colts had an ankle injury as well. Actually, this might have been the guy that had the double ankle injury because he missed most of the summer rehabbing from ankle surgery and then suffered a separate ankle injury late against the Rams, leaving in the fourth quarter. They said it looks pretty bad. They're going to have to undergo further tests. No word yet on what he'll look like for his matchup against Tennessee.
And Jacob Easton looked awful.
Yeah, did not look good. So, for the Browns, Jarvis Landry had a knee injury that took him out. Baker Mayfield had a shoulder injury. Now, he was able to come back in and play. Baker was, but Landry is going to have an MRI on his knee, and we'll see what happens there. For the Dolphins, Tua had an injury to his ribs. From what I heard, the x-rays did not show any breaks, but said that he still is experiencing significant pain.
Yeah, he's day-to-day.
So he's day-to-day.
Flores said he was not looking good, but
there are more, but I'm just going to hit a few more of maybe the more well-known players. Darrell Henderson, running back for the Rams, has a rib injury as well. Tyrod Taylor, hamstring injury. Danny Amendola for the Texans. Both those guys for the Texans. He has a hamstring injury. And then, not as popular, but Nico Collins, another wide receiver for them, with a shoulder injury. The Raiders, Alex Leatherwood, has an oblique injury. And then again, there's probably 4 or 5 here names that I'm not reading. So, injuries is part of the game. It's going to happen. It's a violent game. It's a physical game. But you hate to see players go down, any player go down, but it's especially noticeable whenever it's a what I would call an impact player, your quarterback, your wide receiver, your running back, etc. And just by looking at this, I'm seeing Dalton, I'm seeing Wentz, I'm seeing Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, Tua, Darrell Henderson, Tyrod Taylor, all of these guys, and then Danny Amendola as well. All these guys are just well-known names, impact players in the NFL, and to see them all go out in 1 week is tough. And I know a lot of them will be back. A lot of them will probably be probable, questionable going into it and end up by playing, but I think a few of these are going to miss some playing time for sure.
Taylor is out. They play on Thursday night this week, which I'm sure doesn't help his cause.
Right.
He is not expected to play, or I think they ruled him out today for that game. So, who's made of glass more, Tua or Carson Wentz?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
My second loser goes to UCF. You mentioned injuries. I'll get into that in this as well. So UCF went on the road to face off against Louisville on Friday night. So it's a tough place to play on a night game for sure. But it's a game they were pretty heavily favored in. I think it closed at around 7. But a touchdown on the road is a big deal. The game was super competitive, with it looking like the team that would get the ball last would win. Mm-hmm. And with 1:21 left on the clock, UCF scores to tie the game at 35. And so now it looks like Louisville's going to get that chance, right? Tie game 35 all. Louisville gets the ball a minute 21. They just got to get a field goal. Game over. So after a few quick passes, Louisville has 3rd and 4 from the UCF 46 with around 25 seconds left to play. So the Louisville quarterback, Malik Cunningham, he tries to escape a blitz. He throws it, hits a rushing lineman in the hands, who bats it up in the air and picks it off. So now UCF needs about 20 yards. They have all 3 timeouts. Like I said, about 25 seconds left here. And so now they get the ball last, and they're going to have the chance to win it. The very next play from scrimmage, Dylan Gabriel throws the ball a little behind his intended receiver, who tips it, and true freshman linebacker Jalen Alderman picks it off and races 66 yards for a pick six to virtually end the game. Not only was the interception Alderman's first of the season, I mentioned he's a freshman, first of his career,
Wow.
It was his first snap of the game.
Oh, wow. Hey, boy, to show that you want some more playing time.
That's right. And to add more insult to injury, Gabriel, UCF star quarterback, broke his clavicle on the pick six and is now out indefinitely. Does not need surgery, but that's one of those lingering ones, especially as a quarterback. I mean, that's not one.
Yeah.
I mean, you come back from that too early and get a hit, and you're in deep trouble there.
Yeah.
I think it's his right clavicle. Could be wrong, but clavicle, regardless, not good for the UCF Golden Knights.
Nope. Down a coach, now down a quarterback. Never a great thing. All right, my last one, my last loser for the week. I'm going to need some visual aids for this one. So if you got the stream pulled up, if you're listening, I'm sorry, you can go and Google this yourself and look at it. But if you're watching on YouTube or watching us live on twitch.tv/PastorNick86, you'll be able to see what we're talking about here. So my last loser...
The Giants offensive lineman snapping his leg, is it?
No, I'm not that cruel. My last loser for this week are the college football referees from week 3 of the NCAA season. Now listen, I understand. Let me preface this. Referees are humans. They can make mistakes.
But they're terrible humans.
Yeah, they're terrible people, and they deserve to be loved on. They can make mistakes. They're going to miss things. I get that. I am not one to demand perfection, nor am I one to almost ever blame the outcome of a game on a referee. There are a lot of ways that you got there, and usually, that should have been holding and it wasn't called is not a good enough excuse, or that was a bogus pass interference call is not a good enough excuse to say that it swayed the game. But here's the thing. Even though I know that referees are not perfect, that's kind of why we introduced the painstakingly slow instant replay into the game. I understand instant replay plays a good purpose. I think it kills sometimes momentum of the game, and certainly as a spectator, I get annoyed whenever they take 20 minutes to review the spot and move the ball 3 inches. So even though instant replay is there, mistakes will still happen from time to time, especially when the camera is unable to catch exactly where the ball is or where the knee or the elbow touch the turf. And I get that. Mistakes are still going to happen, right? There are still going to be flaws in this system of refereeing a game because at the end of the day, it's human beings and not some kind of AI or technology that's making the call. However, that does not excuse the myriad of just downright awful reffing mistakes that we saw from this weekend. Now, there's always going to be the how is that targeting call, or the how is that targeting but that isn't call that we see week in and week out, because I don't think anyone knows the proper definition of targeting. I'm not also talking about the obvious he caught / intercepted the ball type of, I know there were a few of those this week as well. There always are going to be a few of those. But there were a couple that were just so atrociously bad that we really got to highlight this and emphasize this. So the first one was in the Mississippi State-Memphis game. Mississippi State is down 4 with 6 minutes to go. It's the fourth quarter. And they punt the ball and, by all accounts, down the ball multiple times before a Memphis player kind of runs in, picks up the ball, and scoops it and begins running the other way. Meanwhile, there's a ref kind of waving the play dead, but everyone kind of ignores that. This player runs it back for a touchdown. The play ends up by standing as called, so now we have the human error of the ref, and now this, it should have been reviewed and overturned thing, but it wasn't. So now there's just all of these errors going on, and Memphis would go on to win by 2 points. So let's take a look at this play really quick. I think I have it pulled up here, don't I? Yeah, there it is. this is that play. All right.
They have held Mississippi State
There's the punt.
scoreless in this second half. And this ball will be down inside
Touched
the
again.
10.
Oh, look, everyone's standing around. Oh, wait, let me just come in and grab that. But
and then did Austin scoop it up on the return?
I mean,
Calvin Austin.
go back and look. I know it's kind of blurry here, but look. It touches down. Look.
And this ball will be
right.
down.
Whenever this guy
He touched it. He just touched it.
Right
that
there.
Guy just touched it.
When he touches this ball with his hand on the knee, it's officially down according to
down
every
right there.
rule. Every rule in the book says when he touches it, and this guy calls it down.
He's calling right here. This guy right here, Chad,
official calls it down.
is waving his hands that play is dead.
Be down inside the 10.
Watch it. Here we go. He's
Watch
throwing
him
that
throw the
thing.
beanbag. Beanbag
This
out.
play's in. He's waving his hand. Hey, look. I'm
hands
waving
go
my
up.
hands. This play is
Yep.
dead.
For the Bull.
Oh, hey, Memphis doesn't care. Memphis plays by their own rules.
Well, we knew that.
I mean, that's just a terrible call. How do you miss that up? And listen, the SEC, they give a statement on this bad boy, by the way. They say, they lay it all out, 5:58 in the fourth quarter, Mississippi State game, blah, 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 blah. They punt the ball downfield where the loose ball touches multiple kicking team's players before a receiving team player picks up the ball and returns it for a touchdown. Right? Okay, so basically they're already saying it was down. It should be done. The kick ball remained live by rule since it was not possessed by a player. Hello, you just said that people had touched it while it was down. So you're kind of contradicting yourself, in my opinion. And nor did it come to a rest inbounds with no player attempting to secure it. I placed my hand on it. Your dude threw a beanbag. He's waving the play dead. What are you talking about? However, they say on the play, the back judge did give the signal to stop the clock. Immediately after the receiving team possessed the ball, this inadvertent signal. So now they're saying, oh, by the way, it was just the signal that was the mistake. Everything else was legit in this play. Come on, man. Anyway, they do go on to say, though, that the review should have happened and it should have placed the ball down where the signal happened, yada, yada, yada. The touchdown should not have counted, which, hey, it absolutely shouldn't. And by the way, I mentioned earlier that I'm not one to usually say that a reffing decision impacts the outcome of a game, but when it's the fourth quarter and there's only 6 minutes to go and you let that play that is a point-scoring play now, it absolutely impacted the outcome of that game, and you can't convince me otherwise.
Well, they only score because everybody thinks it's down. He waves his hands. Half the team's off the field.
Yeah.
Half the team's off the field.
It's ridiculous. Okay.
And nothing infuriates me more. Last thing, and I'll let you finish. Nothing infuriates me more is whenever there's an obvious mistake made, everybody knows it, and you back the horrible decision that was made.
You just double down on the bad mistake.
Just accept the fact that they made a mistake. Say, hey, our guys screwed that one up. We apologize. We will work on fixing this in the future.
Yeah.
I respect that a whole lot more than no. It was the right call. We just was inadvertent this and that, and that infuriates me.
I'm a casual fan. I've watched enough football to know that's not the case.
Yeah.
All right.
Be wrong and accept it.
This one perhaps did not impact the game itself, but perhaps even worse as far as making an officiating mistake happened in the Auburn-Penn State game. So maybe not impacting the direct result of the game, but on a particular drive, well, you know what? Let's just watch this. Let's see what's going on here. Because I don't even know how else to explain what we're going to see.
Sort out last Penn State drive. It was a first down. Was the intention?
So this is first down. Okay? And you know the rules to football better than I do. And maybe you can explain this to me.
Grounding call, weird call, first of all. We never seen
this is a first down throw.
Yeah.
So it should...
That was called intentional grounding.
Okay.
How is that intentional grounding? I mean, I know he overthrows his receiver there, but if we're calling intentional grounding every time someone overthrows a receiver, then Tennessee would have had about 20 of them in their first game because their quarterback overthrew the receiver every time.
If this goes out of bounds, it's intentional grounding.
First down.
There's no legit shot at a catch here, but if I'm the quarterback, I'm saying, you see the receiver that stops. You see the receiver that stops. Theoretically, he could have been there if he doesn't stop his route. So
but How many times have we seen a quarterback drop back and then throw the ball out of bounds because he's about to get sacked? And it's never called intentional grounding.
This is a terrible call.
Terrible call. So that's the first bad call on this drive. But, guys, it gets worse because that was the first down play. Now, for those of you that may be not familiar with the rules, an intentional grounding, it's a loss of down, and the ball is placed at the spot where you threw the ball. Not where it lands downfield, but where you threw the throwing motion. So it's going to be second and 15. This happened on first down. It's now about to be second and 14, 15, whatever it is.
So now second down.
Second down, little screen pass or, little kind of pass out here to the right. Look at that. Oh, it says third down up there.
He goes out of bounds.
So now it should be actual third down. And their coach realized it, and he's trying to tell everyone, hey, guys, it's actually only third down now, but will the refs listen? No. They say no. It's fourth down.
Third and 11. But they were told it was
now they're
fourth
punting
down.
on third and 11.
And now they have to punt on third and 11 because no one would listen to the coach. Now, maybe if he would have called the timeout there and made them review it, something happens. But when it's 10-7 and you want to keep your timeouts or whatever, like, I understand why you think that they'll get this right. This has got to be the most easily reviewed kind of thing in the entire world, right? Like, that can't be a hard thing to review.
Why are some things reviewable and some things not? If you have review, everything should be reviewable.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lick of sense why.
If you're going to claim you want to get calls right, then go get calls right.
Yeah. Needless to say, we have some absolutely terrible things that happened here that could have been overturned simply by going to the review booth and getting it right. I mean, if you're going to make a mistake, make a mistake. No, yeah.
You don't lose an additional down.
Right, so you don't get a replay first down is the thing. So if it was first down when you make the penalty, it goes on to second. Whereas, like, if they had holding on first down, it stays first down.
Yeah.
So that's what it means by loss of down. Not that you lose the second down play. It's just that you don't get to replay the down that the penalty was on. Same thing, passing interference.
It's the equivalent. It's the equivalent of a sack at that position.
Correct. Yeah, it's like getting sacked.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. All right, that's my losers. That's our winners and losers. Let's transition before I get any more upset or angry about this.
Have no fear. Officials this week will be in the spotlight yet again for our next
no doubt.
segment.
All right, let's put an eye on Tennessee really quick. Your thoughts briefly on Tennessee Week 3. It was an easy game.
What do you think? They handled their business. They did what they were supposed to do. Hooker looked pretty good. I am on the Hendon Hooker train now.
Okay.
I don't really want to see Milton again at this point.
Tennessee, for reference, for those that are listening and maybe didn't watch the game, they played Tennessee Tech. It was their true cupcake game, and they won the game 56-0. So it was kind of like to an even bigger extent. We talked about how Texas had Rice as a way to work things out, and don't get me wrong, Rice is a better competition than Tennessee Tech. But this was really the game where Tennessee could try to figure things out, which they needed to do since they had quarterback that had not started the year as the starter playing, kind of won the starting job. Milton didn't even dress out, so maybe there's still an injury issue. We're not really sure. They haven't said, but that's certainly what it looks like. Any additional thoughts from this game? I didn't want to cut you off, but I figured some people might not know how that game played out.
The defense looked really good. Again, I know it's Tech, so we're not going to take too much away from it, but I thought the defense looked good. They flew to the ball, they made plays, they jumped routes, things that I thought they should have been doing all year. This team is not good enough to stop a good team going on a 12-play drive. So why not take a few risks? If you can try to jump a route, risk reward is there, right? You may give up a 60-yard touchdown. You may take a pick six back to the house.
Right.
A team, if you're Alabama, not worth it. You're probably going to get a stop at some point. When you're Tennessee, why not take the risk, jump the route, see what happens, especially this weekend. They took care of business. They got out fairly unscathed from what it looked like. Hopefully they get some guys back healthy. They were smart to not rush guys back this past week.
Yeah.
So I thought they looked fine. I'm trying to get Hooker's numbers here. Exactly.
I got him. Yeah. He was 17 for 25, 199 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah.
I'll admit I did not watch this game. It was on ESPN Plus, which I don't have, which, by the way, I hear from all accounts that every game broadcast on ESPN Plus is just terribly done. Production quality, all that stuff is just bad. That's beside the point. It was also on at the same time that Oklahoma was playing Nebraska in what turned out to be not a great game to watch, especially as an OU fan. So I didn't get to see this game. All I got to do, I watched the first quarter when I had some downtime Friday night, or Saturday night, I mean. There were some other games on that I didn't care about, so I just watched as much of the Tennessee game as I could. So really all I have to go by is the numbers written down. And what I'll say about that is I would have liked to have seen someone other than Hooker be the leading rusher. I would have loved to have seen us I feel like we should have gotten more going on the ground. Now, we did have a couple guys with 40-plus yards, a couple with 20-plus yards. So overall, we rushed well, and we were probably trying to spread it out. But
the concern there to me is if you look at that Tyon Evans line, 15 carries for 41 yards, 2.7 yards a carry. That's not good, especially against Tennessee Tech. The offensive line was concerning. They have some guys banged up, and I understand that, so hopefully that's better. But you could not get a yard of push against Tennessee Tech. Newsflash, Florida, a little better than Tennessee Tech.
A little better. All right, so talking about that, it is Florida week. I know we got some Florida fans that were in the chat earlier. How do you think this week plays out?
I think it's closer than people think because Tennessee always surprises you in this game, either good or bad. If Tennessee goes into this game huge underdogs, they make it closer than it should be. When Tennessee is expected to be competitive, possibly win it, they do stupid stuff and they get blown out. So I think the line is right around 20 right now. I think they keep it within that 20-point mark. Right at it, right? I mean, they may lose by 3 touchdowns, but I don't think this is a game that's particularly close in the sense that Florida fans have to worry about it. But I think it's a game that finishes closer on the scoreboard. I think Tennessee surprises some people this week and some of the things they're able to do. The kicker is who they start at quarterback. I have not been impressed with Joe Milton at all.
Yeah.
It's great he can throw the ball 70 yards, but when he overthrows everybody by 30 yards, it doesn't really matter.
Start overthrowing people by 30 yards and you get intentional grounding, so I'll against you every time. So
at least if you play Penn State. So I thought Hooker, I mean, he had a couple overthrows. It's going to happen, but I thought he threw some very, very nice catchable balls. They didn't always catch them, but he threw a good ball. He threw it on time, and he took off running, and he looked good doing so. I mean, you mentioned not wanting him to be your leading rusher, but he averaged 7.1 yards per carry, so it's not like it was.
Yeah, no, it's not that he wasn't efficient there. I just don't want my quarterback to be my leading rusher against a team like Tennessee Tech.
And I agree.
I want my offensive line to open up holes for my running backs.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but at the same time, 7.1 yards per carry. I think what he brings, especially against a team like Florida who is going to be flying up the field trying to make plays in the backfield. You want a guy that Joe Milton can run, but he's not elusive. He's a bigger guy. He also is a bigger guy that doesn't deliver blows. I saw Hooker looking when he was about to go down, he was not shying away. He was running over a Tennessee Tech defender. It's easier to do against Tennessee Tech than it will be the starting middle linebacker for Florida. But when he takes off, he does it with a purpose, and he looks to make people miss. He can put his foot in the ground and go. So I think he adds a dimension that is going to be very important for this team down the stretch, especially with an offensive line as bad as the one we've seen. If you can have a pocket passer, then yeah, Milton might be your guy. But if you need a guy to get on the edge and make plays, I think it's got to be Hendon Hooker. So my score prediction, I think it's going to be high scoring. I think Florida's going to score points. I think Tennessee's going to move the ball more than people think. I think it's something 49-28, 42-28.
Okay.
So in that 14 to 21 point range. Again, I think it's a little closer than people think, but not one that Florida ever really sweats.
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree with much of what you said there. I think Tennessee's biggest advantage coming into this game is new head coach Josh Heupel, and the fact that he will hopefully be able to do some things on offense that will keep Florida in check a little bit. I do think that he has been holding on to some of the playbook for this game, and we'll see that opened up. Now, can your players execute that? Can Hooker execute that? That'll be a big question mark. With that said, I think that Florida is going to win this game. They have won the last 4. and really only one of those have been close. That was back in 2017. That was a 26-20 win. But other than that, in 2018 it was 47-21. 2019 it was 34-3. And then last year it was 31-19. So they've kind of won big. Now, with that said, I will say that some of the closer games, outside of the 34-3 beating back in 2019, some of the closer games have been in Gainesville. A couple years ago, back in 2015, Florida won it by only 1 point. Another time they've only won it by like a touchdown or so. So I do think maybe they underestimate Tennessee when Tennessee comes to the Swamp. I hope this game is competitive. I hope we see Tennessee not take a moral victory, because I'm not a big moral victory kind of guy, but I hope they don't come in there and just have to leave it with their tails tucked between their legs. And maybe they come in and pull it off. Nothing is outside the realm of possibility, but if I would have to pick, I would say that Florida covers that spread and they win this thing by, at least 3 touchdowns.
Okay. You're wrong, but okay.
Hey, been there before. I'll be there again.
No, I think this game gets circled on a lot of people's calendars, and it probably shouldn't this year.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of rivalry games, and we see it most in OU Texas, where it doesn't matter what either team is doing, it always ends up by being a competitive game. One team could be ranked number 1, the other one could be unranked, one could be undefeated, the other could be completely defeated, and that game will be close. And the same's just not true for this Tennessee-Florida game. I'm sorry, It's just not.
This game is all, yeah. So after this game, Tennessee gets Missouri, South Carolina. So you set yourself up here if you can pull it out, which I don't think they can. You can go on a nice little run, then you get Ole Miss. Probably don't win that game, but you kind of have a hope here of running off a couple wins. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully they show up in Florida. It'd be nice to watch them play.
It'll be a good game, hopefully.
Again, I'm not a moral victory person, but
Sure.
I would like to see them play well.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so really quick for our Outside the Stadium, I want to talk about a thing that we saw come across the wires earlier this week, and that is that in regards to soccer, the men's national team and the women's national team are now being offered a pay scale that will put them on the same. It'll be the exact same contract basis. Now, this is still dependent upon the unions for each of those organizations to go in and negotiate and agree to that. But for the first time in the history of ever, we're seeing an organization or a circumstance or a situation where the men's team and the women's team athletes are being offered the same kind of contracts, the same kind of compensation, the same kind of play. And this is something that I want to dive into when we do a little more research. So we're just going to fly over this tonight, because here are the things that I want us to think about. Is soccer the one sport that this makes sense? We talked about this a lot in the pre-show about how women's soccer statistically has higher viewership than the men's national team, that the women's has brought in more revenue in many of the years over the men's national team, and so therefore it absolutely makes sense. In fact, it's absolutely ludicrous that they're being paid less than the male counterparts for the same kind of play. In fact, for the men going out and putting out worse pay. But the other thing I want to consider is, does that translate over to other sports? Anyway, what are just your kind of overarching thoughts on this, Stephen?
It's a touchy subject for sure. So you have to. I don't think you can make broad stroke statements here. I think that you have to analyze each sport individually, and soccer is the one that we're kind of talking about right now. Soccer is the easiest one to point at and say this is wrong, due to how much revenue both teams bring in. So I'm looking at an article from CNBC here that says, according to audited financial statements from the U.S. Soccer Federation, obtained by the Wall Street Journal, in 2016, women's games generated $1.9 million more in revenue than men's games. From 16 to 18, women's games generated approximately $50.8 million in revenue, compared with $49.9 million for men's games. I don't know the total number of games. That could play a factor. Assuming they played the same number, that is a win for the women. I mean, right there, $1.9 million more. So I think the United States Soccer Federation is moving in the right direction. I understand that people are still upset with FIFA's numbers. So this is according to ESPN. FIFA proposed awarding $440 million in prize money to teams that take part in the men's 2022 World Cup, up from $400 million in 2018. So that's a $40 million increase. The proposed prize money for the 2023 Women's World Cup is $60 million, up from $38 million in 2019. So there's a huge disparity there, right?
Sure.
Now, that's on FIFA.
Yeah, nothing.
Now, the U.S. Soccer Federation has the power in women's soccer that they should absolutely be a driving force to fix this. I will argue with you, though, that 40 million of 400 is what, 10%, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What is 22 million of 38 million? So if you're looking at the number jump percentage-wise, the women's jump is better. Again, we are 400 million almost apart, so we need to fix the gap.
Right.
But the percentage jump is better than the men's jump, and it should be. We should continue to see that number climb. So I understand the frustration that should be had with FIFA. I think the U.S. Soccer Federation is trying to fix this, and I will give credit to the men's team as well that they have been on board with trying to get this fixed and have been advocates for the women's team. So we will see how all this continues to play out. It's like you said, we'll do more research and try to get a better feel.
We have someone in our chat, Jen, who I've known for years, and she's been a huge soccer fan in general, and especially a women's national team fan. So I'd love to pick her brain, maybe get her to either come on with us or maybe just give us a little bit of something if she's not comfortable coming on. But I think there's a good argument here, and I think you're right that soccer is the perfect place to have this argument and discussion because there's no denying that the women's national team has been more relevant than the men's team has been. Big fan base. They bring in money, and there's no reason that they should be paying less than their male counterparts.
Yeah, this argument doesn't work for the NBA and WNBA just due to all the other factors. And this is talking about game revenue, it looks like. It says games generated, so I don't know. I assume that means TV contracts and all of that. Sure. I'd be interested to see jersey sales, concessions.
Well, Jen actually had a really good post in our thing just a minute ago. Nike chief executive Mark Parker reported that the women's jersey is the #1 soccer jersey ever sold. She's talking about a specific jersey. I don't know which specific women's jersey, but it's the #1 soccer jersey, men or women's, ever sold on Nike.com in one season. So, so we're going to talk more about it. We're going to get into it. I think it's an intriguing subject, but now it's time for everybody's favorite segment. It's time for Mount Rushmore. Yes, that's right, my friends. It's that time of the show where we break down our top 4 favorite somethings. Tonight's favorite something?
Or least favorite.
Or least favorite, I suppose. Tonight is looking at none other than the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're going to rank our top 4 MCU content. So this can be movies, this can be TV shows, this can be MCU specific, not just Marvel characters in general. So don't go Venom on me, don't go old school Spider-Man. MCU only.
Okay. You want to lead us out or do you want me to?
I'll lead us out.
Gotcha.
My number 4 is the first Avengers movies. Now, I think there are probably better movies in the MCU, and if I was sitting down and picking a movie, there are probably a bunch that I would pick over it. But for what it was, the first big build-up, the first big collaboration where they all came together, I remember my just jaw dropping at some of those scenes, especially at the end there when they're all in New York and you kind of get that circle shot around all of them, and it's probably considered a cheesy shot nowadays, but dude, just seeing so many of those characters come together for the first time on the big screen, how kind of the phase 1 pulled off and it worked, just kind of gave you chills. So it's got to be up there because it's the OG of them all getting together. My number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy. This is a funny movie. This is a good movie. It's a little bit outside of the normal realm of the comics, but I think it really showed that, to me, it really showed that Marvel could get away from some of the main line of superheroes and still be successful. So I really like that. Number 2, I'm going with a TV show. WandaVision is making this list for me. I almost did this strictly movies because it's almost not fair to give something that has so much more content. But WandaVision was just so good, man. They kept you guessing. They kept you intrigued. Like, I was watching that bad boy every Wednesday when it came out. And I did that with the Loki series as well. But some of the other series I've just kind of been hit or miss on. But that one, man, WandaVision, I loved it. I can't wait to see more of Wanda's story unfold in some of the other movies that are coming out. And then number 1 for me is Endgame. If the number 4 is going to be the Avengers when they first all come together, then certainly Endgame, where it all culminates, has to make this list as well. Few scenes better than the On Your Left portals opening, and then of course Cap getting the hammer, Cap giving the Avengers Assemble line, the I don't even know who you are line that Thanos gives to Wanda. I mean, it's just all so good. So that's my Mount Rushmore, my top 4 honorable mentions. Another series is getting in there, Loki. Iron Man, because it was the one that really started things off. It really got the MCU going and is the reason that it was able to succeed. And then also Captain America Civil War, which is such a fantastic movie. It's one of the most replayable ones and probably should have been in my top 4, but some of those other ones like Avengers was just in there for the nostalgic reason of what that movie was.
Solid list. I don't have too many qualms with it, really. My list is different, but it's no major issues with yours. Number 4 for me, Black Panther. I really love that character. The movie could have been better, but I'm just a big fan of that character, and I really had a lot of anticipation for the movie. Thought the movie held up okay. Again, I think it could have been better, but I thought they did a lot of cool things in that
I
movie.
loved everything about that movie except for the villain. They just did not do a good job with the villain, in my opinion. But
yeah, I disagree. I mean he could have done better, but I don't have major issues like some of our friends do with that movie. I love the character. I love a lot of what they did in that movie.
yeah,
It was again kind of like Guardians. It was kind of a groundbreaking as far as what they were able to kind of show off in that movie. It was really cool.
sure.
Number 3, I thought it would make your list. I was a little surprised. Thor Ragnarok.
It's fun. It's a good one.
Love Thor Ragnarok. I like comedy movies more than just your typical action movie. And Thor checked all the boxes, right? And it was coming off of, at least the Thor movies, off of the disaster that was Dark World. And so a lot of people were iffy on the Ragnarok movie, and they knocked it out of the park with that one. Number 2 for me, Guardians 1, like you mentioned it, they kind of strayed away from their story, the superhero story
Well, it was
style.
the first comedy too.
Yeah, his first comedy, and they nailed it, man. The Chris Pratt was awesome. The characters were great. Just the way that they all interacted, and there wasn't a true main build actor there that at least that you felt whenever you watched it, right? There was no. You kind of had in Iron Man, you had Downey, you had Chris Evans, and you kind of had a group of them there that really played off of each other well.
Yeah,
And then
great ensemble.
number 1 is Avengers Endgame. You mentioned it, the culmination scene where they're fighting Thanos there when Cap grabs the hammer and gives the assemble line. The Thor, I knew it. I mean, it has the comedy, but it also it finishes off that section of the movies that was just so perfect. It hit all the feels. You had the sadness with different things. So Avengers Endgame takes the number 1 spot. Honorable mentions for me, Ant-Man, different kind of movie again, more of the heist movie.
Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome. I thought they did a very good job with Ant-Man. I went into that thinking, how are they going to make a guy that can make himself big and small super interesting and keep me entertained? And I left going, wow, that was a really good movie.
Yeah.
Guardians 2, there's some funny scenes there. I think the first one is better start to finish. Some funny scenes in Guardians 2. No Spider-Man mentioned from you, so I'll give a shout out here.
Yeah.
The second one I think was better than the first, but
I
they're
love
both
them
good.
both. They're both real. Actually, in all honesty, if we went with like rewatchability, I would watch the Spider-Man movies more than I'd watch any of the others.
Spider-Man would have made my list if I could find it somewhere to rewatch, because obviously Sony and Disney and all of that debacle. My wife and I recently rewatched all of the movies, and so I've wanted to watch the Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
And then my final honorable mention, Civil War.
So good.
It's a different movie. It has more of the
It felt like an Avengers movie.
Yeah, and a lot of the Avengers, they fight other people. That one was interesting. They kind of had the infighting, and you had to pick a side, and I liked that they made you do that. You were either on Team Cap or Team Iron Man, and so that was really fun as far as an idea that they did. So
For sure.
Give them a shout out to.
Love it. I think one thing we can agree on, MCU, great series of movies.
Yeah, DC, pick your game up.
Yeah, come on, guys. All right, Stevie, you got anything else that we need to mention before we close out for tonight's show?
I do not, other than you need to play Call of Duty.
Well, we want to thank everyone for listening to tonight's show. You can be sure to find us and rate us on your favorite podcast app. You can catch us live on twitch.tv/Passionate86 or catch us on YouTube. This has been Season 3, Episode 8. We've talked about football. We've talked about sports in general. We've talked about Marvel. It's been a good night. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll catch you next week.